Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Yeah, so I love that comment on television that we have greens are sped up as the day goes on. That's work. And I've had to tell people, look, if greens always got faster during the day, then we never would have to mow them.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro. Count on it. My name is Adam Kershane, joined as always by Brian Laurent. And, we got a good one today. Mr. Blaine Cooper, PGA Agronomist, joins us. And like I kind of say at the end of the episode, we didn't really have to be here. This man just kind of takes the ball and runs with it. So we hope you enjoy it. We'll get right into it.
How are you?
Good. A little bit all over the place right now, but we're making it happen.
Yeah, I'd say so, dude.
Mr. Cooper, how's it going?
Hello, Adam. How are you?
Hey, Bland. How are you, sir?
Doing fine.
Are you home today?
I am, finally.
How about that?
Barely remembered how to get here.
Yeah, right. So are you like me? Do you just leave the suitcase in your room just kind of packed with, your normal stuff?
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, I'll see if you can see back here. So that closet back there.
Oh my gosh, what?
That scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, my staging closet. So it keeps all the next term I'm going to, all the clothes in there. And then behind me here's my suitcase. It's on the yeah, so I basically say one tournament ahead.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So you scared both of us with that little mannequin or whatever back there. What's the story behind that?
No, that's my let's see here. Yeah, all right, so that's my youngest son. He got a mannequin of Liam Neeson, and then that's my youngest son's head when he was a senior in high school. They cut it out for senior day, and so we stuck his head on it, and we just kind of decorated it over time with different things. It's kind of a funny thing. When he comes home, I always have something different on it for him to look at. So I just caddy bib over it just now.
That's awesome. You gonna put it out on the doorstep tonight for Halloween?
No, I think that ugly mug we wouldn't be able to give away any candy if we kept that out. I want to get rid of all of it. I don't want any of it left tomorrow.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen then. Exactly. You're sitting there all day, right? Yeah.
Turns into it's a slippery slope there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Bland. You're definitely a big character in the industry, and we've had a few people mention your name on our podcast. So we're very fortunate to have you on here today, and just love for you to kind of get into your story a little bit. Obviously, a lot of credentials and things right now being a agronomist on the PGA Tour, but we'd love to hear about kind of the upbringing and what got you into golf, and then what kind of got you into the maintenance side of things.
Yeah, well, we can. How long is this podcast?
We got as much time as you want.
No, we'll get. I'm a good cure for insomnia, as my wife likes to say.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I got introduced to golf when I was 10 years old. Adam, it was a week before school started. I'm not sure which grade I was in, whatever grade that was when you're 10. And my dad, he played golf and was an avid 18 handicap lifetime. But he took me out to the golf course a week before school started, and we played 9 holes one afternoon, and that was it. I was hooked, and I spent every day for that week before school started going out. It was a small little club in Little Manning, South Carolina. It was, as we refer to, a little podunk place, but it was a great place to grow up, and a lot of colorful characters out there that I was able to befriend over the years. Anyway, so I started playing then, and just was hooked, and then went off to college. Thought I was going to play golf in college. Ended up not doing that. Well, just really didn't have the game to do it, quite frankly. But what was involved in other things, mainly fraternity, and golf got in the way of partying, unfortunately. But I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I have one side of my family has that background, and so I kind of aimlessly wandered through school for a couple of years, and before I just realized that, well, I'm just kind of wasting my time studying something that there's really no interest to me at all. And so I had I'd always worked on golf courses. I came back every summer during college and managed to find my way working on a golf course. Um, and then realized you could connect science into golf. I didn't realize that there was a scientific component to golf. And as soon as I figured that out, it was kind of it was kind of sky the limit. And so I ended up getting a degree early on in accounting and realized that that was not what I wanted to do. And so went back and well, didn't go, stayed in school obviously, and then finished up my turf degree. Um, and during that time was very fortunate to be able to go and to intern at the Standard Club in Atlanta, Georgia, with Mark Hoban. He was a fantastic mentor. He was really my first true boss that had a background in turf. I'd grown up again at Little Clarendon Country Club, and the golf professional was a superintendent, and ended up. I think by the time I was 15 years old, I was basically running the crew in the summertime. We had two full-time people and two other high school kids, and yeah, taught myself how to backlap reels. Of course, if Mike Rollins ever saw how I did it, he would kill me. But anyway, so it was a very unorthodox path, I guess, or maybe not so much. I think that a lot of people who ended up in this business never started out to get in the business because, quite frankly, back in the 80s and 90s when we came along, it really wasn't an advertised business. It wasn't, this side of the ledger, if you will, was a kind of secondhand citizens. We were kind of looked at as well, anybody can grow grass, just a farmer in overalls. And you look back at the in the 70s and 80s when those guys who came along, Jim Ganleys and the Baders and the Paul Latshaws and Billy Fullers, they kind of established an educational component to it, and were able to get a lot of respect from club owners and members, and so they kind of blazed the pathway, at least as I see it, for those of us to come along after them. But yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up in the industry, and then became a superintendent in the Atlanta area after working with Mark, and got on with a management company. Management companies, as we all know, were really big and coming along in the mid 90s, and built a few facilities and managed those, and then had an opportunity to do the same thing in Charlotte, and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 96, I guess, and built another golf course there, opened that, and managed that property among some others until 2001, when I entered into business with an individual who um, uh, we were at the time, you may or may not remember, but at the time golf was really kind of cratering. And a lot of these REITs, these real estate investment trusts who had properties, were divesting themselves of entire markets. They were trying to just get out of of all the surplus they had, and so we started this company to buy a lot of these properties and then rezone them and get them repurposed for higher and better use. And when I started that company with Sam, we had a really good run. It was an eye-opening experience for me. I really learned the finance part of it then. Got thrown into dealing with banks and things that I had to go back and brush off accounting books that I'd not really paid much attention to when I was in school, and thought, well, I never thought I'd have to use this, but here I am. But it was fantastic, and I learned that component of the business. Um, but that business model was kind of a short burn rate, if you will, because the economy certainly corrected itself over time. And Sam wanted to go more into real estate. I wanted to stay in golf, and I was found myself doing a lot of consulting at that point. Don't know how I got into it. Just all of a sudden found myself consulting. People called, and I'd go do it, and loved it, and wanted to stay in that part of the business. And so I did that for a while, and then was contacted by an old colleague who had, I guess, in around 2004 or five, had gone to work with then Valley Crest companies, and asked me to do some consulting work for them, some due diligence work. So I did that, and making a long story even longer, but I ended up being hired uh, by Valley Crest as their national director of agronomy. That was a really short stint. Cal Roth, at about that time, had taken over the agronomy department of the PGA Tour, and had contacted me. I had done some work as when I was doing private consulting for a couple. Oh, I'm plugging my light. Sorry, let me plug that
It's
back in.
okay.
I'd done some work for some tour sites. Bear with me 2 seconds.
I had some technical difficulties earlier as well, Blaine, so you're not
Yeah,
alone.
we're
You're
all
good.
having them today.
That was brought
Yeah.
up on my right heel, so that wasn't. So anyway, it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down, guys. It was something that I had when I had been consulting for the tour sites. I had told myself, wow, if an opportunity like that ever presented itself, that'd be where I'd want to go. And it was unfortunate that my time with Valley Crest was so short because there are a lot of really good people with that company, and I would have loved to have continued on with them. But as I tell people all the time in this industry who are struggling with whether they should leave a job when another job presents itself, it's I tell them, look, we're just kind of pawns in the game. We aren't the ones who make the decision when the jobs are opening and what they're paying. We're just here to either take it or not take it. And so you make your own opportunity. So I made that jump, and it's been well, almost 20 years, 19 years, I guess, and I haven't regretted a day of it. It's been a great run, and I've loved every minute of it. Worked with a lot of great people. Have traveled to places that you wouldn't otherwise go. You certainly a lot of the cities we go to, you wouldn't make a vacation, or at least if you had a week or two of vacation, you certainly wouldn't pencil those in on the map to go to. But when you go to these places, you find that you meet a lot of really interesting people, and you develop friendships that you carry on forever. So it's been I'm extremely fortunate to have landed where I am. That's for certain.
So, Blaine, what was it about this industry that you really fell in love with and knew that you wanted to make this a career?
The multiple components of that, Brian. I think that first of all, early on, knowing that you could apply hardcore academics to it with the study of science and all the different all the different sciences that go into golf course management. And I remember it was a quote that Bobby Jones said one time. He was amazed how people who assign so much educational value to banking and lawyering and doctoring assign so little of it to golf. But I think that's indeed a stereotype that we've overcome. So that certainly was kind of the initial attraction, in addition to loving the game of golf, loving to play the game of golf. Over time, I found myself, I think we all do. It's an industry that it's unlike any other industry in that everybody is there to support you. I've never met anyone who has been in the turf industry who, if you ask them a question or ask for help, they wouldn't give it to you in some form or fashion. And a lot of industries aren't like that. A lot of them can be cutthroat and as we all know, and a lot of animosity between competitors. But that's not the, and I'm sure it exists, and I'm sure there are people out there who maybe who don't get along with other people. But that's just you can find that in any transection of society. But that's really a part of it and no matter where I travel, I've been. I know somebody asked the other day how many states I've been to, and I can't remember. It was 30, 32 or 38 in 7 or 8 different countries. But everywhere you go, everybody's is just is not only willing to help, that they look forward to helping other people, and so that's certainly been an attraction that's one that I don't see hopefully ever changing in this industry.
Well, Bland, you talked about, if the job ever came up to be a PGA Tour agronomist, that's something obviously must have been a bit of a dream or goal for you. So talk about, kind of the exciting things about that job and maybe some of your favorite parts of what you get to do.
Well, the least favorite part, if you ask any of us, is the travel part of it, right? But they don't play any tournaments in Sumter, South Carolina, so I'm gonna have to got to go to where they are, right? But other than that, it's I think superintendents by and large by trade are problem solvers. I think we all got into this business with a problem solving DNA, and so I've always found it mentally or just mentally engaging or um, something that really keeps your blood pumping when you can go into a site and in a very short period of time try to isolate what the issues are, if there are issues, and then develop programs or program or program of programs to help repair those or fix those issues. And so, when you do that 10 or 11, 12 times a year, um, there's a lot of fun in that. And then there's an insanity that exists with those of us in tournament golf that you had that hard deadline. And golf course maintenance can get it can get kind of monotonous and redundant every day. It's the same thing over and over, and you certainly have your tournament seasons that you look forward to. But on the PGA Tour, that's a hard date, right? And that date, there's going to that golf course is going to be televised to uh, to however many countries we televised to now, 165, 168. I can't remember how many it is. And depending on the tournament, millions and millions of people are watching it. So you have there is no mulligan, if you will. And so that really keeps you motivated and it's exciting at the same time. So those are parts of the job that you can take something that's nature, if you will, and something that would just go on in perpetuity if you let it, but you're trying to hone it in to get it ready for something that the world is going to watch, and our players are expecting it to be in exceptional condition, as well as the title sponsors and our television partners and everybody else that's associated with these events. These things are, as we all know, are each of these tournaments are tens of millions of dollars, and so no no title sponsor wants to have their brand associated with a club that's it's not in exceptional condition. Our players want to play a place that's in exceptional condition. Um, the host sites obviously want to be in exceptional condition. So to be a part of that, it gives you a lot of satisfaction when you're able to be successful there. And fortunately, more times than not, we are. It's a good feeling when you're able to leave a site and know that you were maybe a very small part of making it a success.
Turf Today is proudly sponsored by Toro. And when you check out Toro.com, there are lots of different options on there. Head to golf course mowers and equipment to see all the different options that Toro has to offer. You can check out the new Vista series, which is the solution for moving people quickly and conveniently in a variety of settings. All the different products are there, from greens mowers, fairway mowers, rough mowers, trim and surround mowers. There's so many different options with Toro, so check them out. Toro.com.
Blaine, when you go into these places, I mean, most of the time, I would say you guys are on the same page. You and the superintendent are on the same page, but there have to be times where you come in and you might be looking at something different or want something different than what the host course wants. How do you go about handling those conversations, handling those times when you may not be seeing eye to eye with the superintendent on the way something's done?
Um, Brian, those are instances that are very rare, fortunately. However, they are real, and they have and do occur. Um, when you go into a site, and typically these are first year sites, right? These are sites that are being evaluated, and you're looking at and trying to explain to everyone on the ground that here are the shortcomings of the property. And what you have to do as an agronomy official is to separate what is under the control of the superintendent and what's not under the control of the superintendent. If the property, plant, and equipment, the capitalization of the property, if that's not up to par, then you can't blame the superintendent for that, right? Now, he's not going to fork out millions and millions of his own dollars to fix an irrigation system or rebuild greens or bunkers or whatever it may be. So you got to pair apart what is within the operation itself that can be enhanced maybe to get us a little closer where we need to be, and then what needs to be done at the capital level. And so those conversations you would have obviously with club owners, membership, with title sponsors. If everybody's wants to play this particular site and this is where we have to play, then okay, let's all get together and figure out how to get from where we are to where we need to be. Um, Once you're able to work, at least in my experience, when I've been able to get through that first year, and it's not that it's they're disagreements. I just recently came back from a first year event in Little Rock, Arkansas, Pleasant Valley Country Club, the Simmons Bank Championship. Don Armbrust and his staff, that was their first time ever doing it. And so they had a lot of questions. And what we do, a lot of what we do in our role is to make sure that every question they have, we give them an answer. And so there are no surprises for them. If we aren't keeping that individual and his staff up to breast on what to expect and what's going to happen and so they can avoid those pitfalls, and we haven't done our job. And I can tell you that Don and his staff were outstanding to work with. And when I go back next year, there won't be the 600 questions that every first year site has. It's going to be a much more um, seamless operation. So now, I mean, there are times certainly when you maybe existing sites or sites that have been around for a while where you may get in a disagreement with the way things should be done. The one thing I always try to explain to the superintendent is, look, I'm not going to ask anything out of your golf course that I never did as a superintendent myself. I'm not going to put your golf course in a position where you're going to incur any undue financial hardship that's going to require the club to invest a lot of money in repairing this damage, or that's going to make your rest of your season very difficult. For example, putting bent grass greens to the ringer in early June when you know they have 100 days of heat that they are getting ready to encounter. So, or pushing Bermuda grass too far in the fall. You're always very, very cognizant and very aware of, and you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, well, what's it going to look like tomorrow when we're gone? And what's it going to look like next week and the week after and the month after? And I don't just evaluate the success that I have and what the condition that golf course is during tournament week. I look at it also what it is the other 51 weeks of the year, because that golf course is in good shape the other 51 weeks of the year. Um, their plans are good. They're operating at a high level. They're a healthy club, hopefully. I mean, the membership's got to be happy if it's in good shape. And and on a personal level, quite frankly, if a golf course is not in good condition, then I'm making more visits to it, interim visits, and that's more days out of my own bed, which I spend enough of those as it is. So selfishly, I all want them to be in good shape year round. So it's um they're so that's kind of from the agronomic perspective. Sometimes, look, there are just some personality uh, uh, differences that you're going to have with an individual, and it's no fault of other individual. It's just oil and water don't mix. We need oil, we need water, but we can't we well we do right now need oil, that's for sure. So, but you just don't put them both together, right? And
Yeah.
so, but those are when you figure our staff. I think we provide agronomic support to well over 100 tournaments around the world across 5 tours every year. And I've been out here almost 20 years. That's what, 2,000 or so golf tournaments that I've that our company's hosted since I've been an employee. I can count on one hand how many times that's really been the case where, there were just two of us that just could not get along with each other, and we just had to cut bait, and somebody else came in the next year and hope that personality melded a little bit better with the individual. So
Do you,
again, typically it's no fault of either individual. It's just the way us humans are put together.
do you think in those instances where it is that oil and water, maybe they don't see you as an ally, they see you more as a foe trying to come in and tell them what to do?
That's a really good point, Brian. That's part of the psychology of what we do also. It's the superintendent has to know that you have their best interest at heart, and you have to. I mean, it's not a process of fooling them into believing that. It's you you really have to have that, and so you have to earn that by not just what you say, but what you do. And I think once you've established that trust where that individual realizes that, hey, you are an ally and a champion of their cause and are there to make sure they're successful for reasons I've already stated, um, then uh, and then also can have a knowledge base you can bring to help the operation. I mean, if you don't offer anything to help them, then that's there's no value there. But so you have to have that also. But I think once you've established all those things, um, then they realize you're not there to be, the big bad PGA Tour. And we're coming in here to tell you how to do things. That's not it at all. We're ultimately guests in their house, is the way I look at it, and we need to act as guests and treat their we need to make the bed and take out the trash when we're through and make sure that the towels are hung up neatly the same way we found them, um, and not leave it like a bunch of college kids at spring break in Daytona do hotels. So that's
Just like,
and
can you teach my kids how to do that at my house?
well, yeah. Well, listen, I I have three boys. They're all out of the house now at college, but it was a circus around here for a long time. And we cleaned the house with a backpack blower. So
Yeah.
um, so that's just that's relationship building, and that's something that if you're going to be successful at a site, you have to do those things. You have to make sure that person knows that you're there for them, and if I always tell people, a rising tide raises all boats. And if you're successful and you look good, I in turn am going to look good. Not that I need to look good, but I guess I'll tell people all the time that if I hear no comments at all during tournament week, then that's typically a good thing. I mean, it's you don't call somebody if you buy a car, you don't call the car dealership and every week and say what a great car you have. You only call if the thing breaks down as a lemon, and you want to complain about that. So in our business, sometimes no news is good news. But yeah, that's how I kind of philosophically approach it. And I believe most, if you're going to be successful out here, that's the way you have to do it.
I think you're right. Nailed it right on top of the head. I wanted to ask you about specifics in the tournament. We had Thomas Bastis on a month or so ago, and he talked to us about pin positions and how that's all laid out. It's all kind of talked about. Wait 1 second.
Oh, more technical
Yeah,
difficulties.
I'm having
We're
fun here
three
with
for
my
three.
microphone
We're
today.
3 for 3.
So could you talk to us a little bit about green speeds and maybe some of the consistencies, some of the differences between different tournaments, maybe, what the players are expecting, that kind of thing, and how that all sort of works out with tournaments?
Yeah, so green speeds are, first of all, your hole locations are determined by the architect. Okay, and the analogy I like to use is if Adam, if you buy a house and it has four bathrooms, okay, it has three full baths upstairs and one full bath downstairs. You if that you don't go shower in the kitchen, right? You shower in the bathrooms.
Right.
And so an architect, when they design a green, uh, they already tell you where they want the whole locations to go. And so then you work in those locations to find it, and you can move it a pace or two here and there depending on the slope and that kind of thing. But our job as agronomy officials is to work with the rural staff and to identify those foremost, in the case of the PGA Tour and Corn Ferry Tour, the four most challenging hole locations on that green, and then determine what speed can we play that set of greens and still have those hole locations at our disposal to use. In other words, if you have a slopey set of greens and you try to run the green speeds too fast, then you start losing hole locations, strategic hole locations. And so then you have to move the hole locations back to the centers of the greens in flatter places. Well, if you want our guys to shoot the grass off the place, I don't care what the green speeds are. If you put them in the centers and they're flat, the green speeds could be 17 feet. They're going to shoot. They're going to break a lot of course records that week. So you want to be able to use those strategic hole locations. So trying to marry or the green speed with what those locations are is one of the things that we do now. Current modern day golf course architecture takes, um, generally speaking, most architects now work within a range of slope that's kind of maximum hole. Whether you use percentage or degree slope, it's on a 1.7 degrees is 2.4%. Okay, and so that's kind of at that slope you can run greens to 11 and a half, 12 feet probably max. If you have your hole locations that are more sloped than that, you're going to slow your greens down. And if they are flatter than that, then you can speed them up some. So that's architecturally how we look at it. Now we also have to factor in wind. What we know that if you study force wind in physics, everybody thinks that the difference in from 5 to 10 miles an hour is the difference between 15 and 20 miles an hour and 25 and 30 miles an hour. It's not the case at all. The difference of 5 to 10, the difference in 25 to 30 miles an hour is about 800% greater than the difference in 5 to 10. In other words, you start getting the more wind you have, it doesn't take exponentially more of an impact on the golf ball. So when we start getting forecasts of sustained winds over 20 miles an hour, then we have discussions with our tournament directors and our setup officials regarding, first of all, we probably need to slow these things down a little bit. And also we need to use some hole locations that are maybe more protected if you just have one day of wind. So there's always, we work on obviously with an on-site meteorologist who they're going to give us a forecast. And if they tell us on Tuesday that, look, Friday it's going to be blowing 20 to 25, then we'll make adjustments leading into that to make sure that we can play that round or finish that round without having to stop for balls moving at address. Once balls start moving at address or blowing off the putting green, that's a really, really bad problem. And it's not just a bad problem for us, it's a bad problem for for our television partners because they want to show live golf and they've sold millions and millions of dollars worth of advertisement. And if we can't show live golf, we have to suspend because we got the greens too fast because the wind's blowing them around. That's a really bad look for us. And now sometimes the wind just blows hard enough it doesn't matter what the green speeds are. If it's 35 miles an hour, I can show you a video where at 35 miles an hour where a ball will blow across a fairway. What's the speed of the fairway? You can't slow greens down that much. So it's that is certainly something that goes into it. And then we look at a lot of these a lot of these events in the middle of the summertime. We're playing 156 players. We're a lot of our open events. We're playing the maximum field size for the daylight available, and it's important to be able to finish the round the day we started that round. And if we have green speeds too fast and it's taking too long to play, and we're already pushed for daylight, all we're doing is pushing the first round into Friday. All we're doing is pushing the cut into Saturday. And that costs the tournament a lot of money to have to fund resource buses, and we have to open up dining early. There's so many behind the curtain things that go on when we can't keep a golf tournament on time. A tournament loves to be able to get its media uh, uh, stuff out Friday night about who made the cut, who's going to tee off first on Saturday morning. And we don't make a cut till Saturday. Nobody knows that. You don't know that until you come back Saturday and finish round two. So there's a number of things that go into green speed. And as much as everybody says, it's getting faster and faster. Well, that's not that's it's not an easy thing to do, but let's face it, if we want to get greens fast, we know what to do to get greens faster and faster. It's managing that speed in a consistent manner that allows us to use those strategic hole locations, allows us to play the golf fairly in the presence of environmental conditions, i.e. wind, and then also allows us to finish a tournament on time. And so all that factors into how we we go about setting up greens.
Turf Today is also brought to you by Apex 10. And what is it? Apex 10 is a peat humic substance made from peat humus, tested and proven at universities around the world and in real-world applications to increase plant metabolic performance, stimulate indigenous microbial populations, reduce irrigation, lower fertility inputs, and of course, it's registered for organic use. So check them out, greennature.life.
Blaine, you guys obviously use a lot of data, and you talked about green speeds. Just in my travels, I just, maybe a slight observation. It seems like you guys might have a different use for your data than maybe a superintendent has on a regular basis. Is there potentially any difference, or what are the differences in what you collect, how you collect it, why you collect it, versus maybe what a superintendent does on a regular basis? Does that make sense?
No, it does, and there are a couple different layers or reasons why we collect data. The first reason in that moment, if you will, is that when I collect data, I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at it in a research capacity. I'm looking at it to manage that golf tournament, and what I'm trying to get is enough data to confirm what we're doing to those greens uh, is working, and should we stay on our current course. Or do we need to make a change based on something we're seeing with the data or something that we know is going to happen with the weather or something along those lines? Just collect data just to collect data. It's really kind of a motion, if you will. I mean, it's a we all have different philosophies on how to collect data. I look at people. So, do you stimp every green? Well, I've yet to see a golf course where you can stimp every green. You can't do it, right? The place I just came from, there was four greens we could stimp. But what I try to do, my philosophy on getting green speeds is to at least get one green that's under each mower. Because if I start to see a separation with a particular green and it happens to be with a particular mower, then we're going to start looking at that mower and seeing them. Hey, is there a different roller on there for some reason, different bed knife, bed bar? What's going on with this mower? Or is it just the fact that, you know what, that green's just the slowest green, or that green's just the fastest green? And so, but I don't get wrapped up into trying to get every green because you can't do that. You can make up a number, but is that, yeah, I've had people say, well, we're just going to average it out and we'll just say the fourth green is this. I said, well, that sounds great, but how about if a player comes to you and asks you, what's the fourth green snipping? And you say, well, it's 12 and a half feet. And they ask, well, come show me where you snipped it. Ooh, that's a
Yep.
bad place to be. Now that player, you've lost that player forever. Now they're gonna think you're a liar. And if you're making up numbers, you are. I hate to say it, but you are. At least in that episode. So um, you want to make sure that the data is first of all the source of the data is correct, and the mechanism of process by which you collect the data is correct. Um, Moisture is a big thing. I mean, moisture moisture is the most controlling feature that we have in terms of controls firmness, and to a degree it controls speed or speed loss during the day. The wetter the greens are, typically the more speed you're going to lose during the day. So we all work to manage greens within a predetermined moisture range, and that's done with obviously metering and hand watering that we've been doing now for a long time. Um, and everybody knows how to do that. And so, in the moment, that's what I'm looking at. Also, I'm looking at trends, and I'll look at the greens. Are the greens by and large, are they getting faster? Are they getting slower? Are they getting softer, getting firmer? And just kind of watching how those greens play out as the week goes on. The way I like to set up a golf course for a tournament, assuming we're in control of the weather and we're not facing any real bad winds, is I always work the golf tournament from the end of the golf tournament back to the beginning of the week. And what I mean by that is where do we want that golf course Sunday afternoon when the leaders are making the turn, with respect to firmness, with respect to speed, with respect to rough heights. And that should kind of be the crescendo, if you will, of the week. And then you kind of reverse engineer your way back to Monday, and so your starting point is here, and you want to be here on Sunday. So it's a gradual climb. You don't want to be way up here on Monday because you have nowhere to go. You can't stay there. There's going to be some ebbs and flows of the week, and you're going to get comments. Well, the greens are slowed down today, or the greens got soft today. So, and then in more of a microcosm, you work around from the end of the day back to the beginning of the day. It's a thing where you see mistakes have been made over the years is that maybe people go out in the morning and they look at where the green is at 7 o'clock in the morning and think, well, this is good. Let's just, we're done. Let's off to the next hole. Well, what's your forecast that day? If it's a really dry, cold air mass, that green could possibly speed up as the day goes on. And if you're already kind of at critical mass on green speed, you have to count for that. And so always play the game is, all right, when the last groups get off the first and 10th hole, in the case of a double T start at 4 o'clock, where is the first and 10th green? Where are they going to be at 4:15 when we can get on them with a hose or with whatever we need to get on them with? And so, so you work each individual round backwards, work the week backwards. And so philosophically, that's how I've always approached each of my events. So it's and the data obviously will show those trends, right? It'll show where you're going and where you've been, and then finally use data for year-over-year comparisons. And when we can take that data that we collect along with some other data that the superintendent will gather during the year, we can look and see, if, for example, your organic matter management program is having desired effect. Is it keeping up with what you're producing in terms of organic matter? Well, we're seeing drastic loss in firmness from year over year. We're seeing a drastic loss in density, whatever it may be. And so we can then use that data to say, look, here's where we need to be, here's where we are. So there's a disconnect here, and what do we need to do to fill in this gap? To your question about how superintendents take data, look, I am again, I go back to my philosophy on data is, do you have enough data to make a decision on what you're doing is sufficient or not? And as soon as you reach that point, I think that's all the data you need. When you're managing a golf course, do you have the data that you need to carry on the next day or the next week? And if stimping one green, once a week is doing that for you, then and your membership's happy and everybody's happy, then who am I to say that you need to be doing more than that, right? So it's um, and let's face it, there's unless somebody's just a masochist, they aren't trying to maintain their golf course at the levels that we're maintaining these things during tournament week. It's not resourcefully, it's not achievable, or is it very practical? And then of course agronomically, there's no turf grass that can withstand that type of preparation for 52 weeks a year, right? You spend a lot of time getting this turf healthy enough to where it can be disposed to the rigors of tournament preparation, which I liken it to. You kind of look at the weeks going into tournament week is your years of earning your income, and then you look at tournament week as retirement when you're pulling from that income. So you're building up your reserves, building up all these things. Then tournament week, you're drawing all that down in terms of moisture and some of your health from the plant. And it's just a race to get to the end of the week to make sure that you're have those greens healthy enough to where they can rebound quickly after the event, carry on. So I know there's a lot of superintendents have gotten into a lot of data collection. I think that's fantastic. The analogy I like to use, if you get your pilot's license, you'll spend your first 35 to 80 hours learning to fly out of the windshield. They call that visual rating. And then once you pass that, then they will introduce you to what they call IFR instrument rating. And obviously pilots that fly planes for a living, they can fly a plane just by looking at the gauges, right? Looking at the screens. But what happens if the gauges go out? You still got to be able to fly the plane looking out of the front of the window, a windshield. And so that data, any data you collect should correspond to what your eyeballs are telling you. People say, well, how do you tell if a green is smooth and true? Well, by two golf balls. The golf ball never lies. But I don't need a $6,000 or $7,000 meter to tell me if a green is smooth or true. I mean, I can watch a golf ball roll, and that's if it's smooth and true, then all that meter is going to be doing at that point is confirming what my eyeballs are seeing. So I tell people never blindly trust any of these meters. Always look at the windshield because maybe the meter's not telling you there's a mountain in front of the plane.
That's a great analogy.
You might have some of the best analogies we've had so
good.
far. I mean,
Yeah,
the kitchens,
absolutely.
the bathrooms, and yeah, VFR. I love it. You mentioned the green speeds and maybe getting faster during the day. How frequently do you ever see greens faster at the end of a day
Yeah, but very
before evening maintenance?
yeah. So I love that comment on television that we have
Drives me
they
nuts.
make, and
Yeah.
and I've had to tell people, look, if greens always got faster during the day, then we never would have to mow them.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if they all got faster,
That's a
then we
good
just
point.
yeah. So we could save a lot of money and not have to mow them. Um, I would say out of the oh gosh, thousands of data sets that I've looked at over the years, when you start thinking about every day, every green over the course of however many years it's been, less than 10 times have I seen a green speeds be faster than they were at the beginning of the day. And when I say faster, I mean maybe 2 inches on average.
Yeah.
Very, very incremental, almost unrecognizable. And that's when you have typically a shoulder season events, early spring, or Bay Hill is one. We play that late February, early March, where we have some years gotten a real cold, dry air mass that came through there, and it got into the high 30s, low 40s with a super dry air mass, and we could see those greens just they're non-overseeded Bermuda grass. They just shrink up, and maybe they start out the day at 14 feet and end up at 14.2, for example. Or I'm getting ready to go to one here in a couple of weeks in Sea Island where we could have that same that same phenomenon where if we got a real cold, dry air mass that comes through, we could see those speeds pick up. And so you want to be able to, we have models that show based on atmospheric moisture and temperature and all, kind of what to expect in terms of green speed loss. Generally speaking, greens in the middle of the summertime are going to lose about 6% of their speed during the day. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but that's generally what we're going to have. It's important for the setup officials to know that. So whoever is setting up the golf course, I'm going to have those conversations with them early in the week and say, look, here's what the week looks like. Here's where we're going to be. It's going to be a hot, humid week, Brian. East Lake, for example. It's typically it's not the most pleasant of weather weeks, at least in the middle of the day.
Always bring an undershirt.
Yeah, and so we know those greens are going to lose. They're going to lose speed, and there's nothing you can do. You can regulate them all you want, but you're not going to keep it from having some rebound as the day goes on. Um, but to be able to tell the rules official with confidence, look, this is what to expect during the day. This is why you're on the screen right now at 6:45 in the morning. This is as fast as this green's going to be all day long. You have no worries about this green getting any faster. So this whole location is good now at 6:45 in the morning. It's going to be good all day. Conversely, if you do have that situation where a green could potentially speed up and you're already in a whole location that could be not marginal, but you just don't want to get any faster, then that's a conversation that I would have with those setup officials. Look, this is the day that we're not going to lose any speed. So this might be the day that if it works into your rotation, if it gives you enough left centers or left right centers, backs, fronts, because that all goes into their setup philosophy also. If you can work that in to maybe use some more conservative hole locations on this day when we know we're not going to have a rebound, then that might benefit all of us. And so those are things that yeah, it's a big misconception. I love hearing that. Green speed, all this green just sped up as the day goes on.
It drives me absolutely nuts. I was gonna say when you have to make those adjustments though on, maybe getting a little slippery towards the end of the day, that's usually going to be because of wind, right? I mean, the green's not necessarily speeding up, it's just the wind with the combination of the green speeds potentially going to move the ball a little more.
Right. Yeah. Just the sheer green speed gain, if you will, is not enough to be a concern. You're not going to go
Yeah.
from 12 and a half feet to 14 feet. That doesn't
Right,
happen.
right,
No.
right.
Again, a couple of inches. So you're exactly right. It's just the wind, because generally those type of weather patterns are associated with a northerly flow, and it's typically pretty brisk. So yeah, you're exactly right.
It's just a great excuse for the golfers. So you can't take that away from them, right?
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
let the facts get in the way of a good
yeah,
story.
exactly. It's pretty good. The owner talent is they're referred to from the networks and also from cable. They're really good people, and I've got to know, gosh, probably all of them over the years. Been fortunate enough and to spend some time with them, and they're like everybody else. Once you explain it to them and give them, as you said, some of my analogies, then they look at it and say, "Gosh, you're exactly right. We won't say that again." So it's once you once and they want to know the information, right? They don't want to go in the air and sound uneducated. So they appreciate that when we inform them of that. Say, look, just never say the greens are going to speed up. If it's going to happen, I will tell you, and then you can use it on the air, and you can say as many times as you want. But no,
Nice.
don't. And so they're no, they're good folks, and like I said, they're just like everybody else. They want to know the facts.
Well, Bland, a lot of what I'm hearing about your job and everything going on with these big productions is the timing. Everything is so important, and I would imagine leading up to the start of the tournament is kind of the biggest part of that all. So, could you tell us any great memories of a course or a crew that had a really, really exciting, crazy start and was able to pull it off?
Oh wow. You always when you talk about crazy, you always talk about things that are out of your control, i.e. Mother Nature. I can remember it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago now. We play a Champions Tour event in Cary, North Carolina, outside of Raleigh, called the SAS Championship. And I don't work it anymore. It's been turned over to somebody else, but I worked it for about 15 straight years. And we always had rain. We played in October, and it seemed to be always a wet weather pattern. Well, this one particular year, um, I can't remember which hurricane it was, but I think it dropped 9 inches of rain, I believe, on Saturday and into Sunday of advance week. And four of the holes were completely underwater. I mean, completely. They were you couldn't see, all you could see was the top of a flagstick.
Yep.
And luckily, it was a 54 hole facility. We're playing one of the golf courses that year. Um, I mean, there were porta johns floating, across the fairway. There was, you couldn't. All the rope and stick was totally covered up. And I thought, boy, this isn't very good. And Lee Hancock, the director of agronomy at the time, who still is there, when all the water receded, it left just a nasty clay silt film over everything. And we were already making arrangements to play four other holes of one of the other golf courses. And Lee said, "No, I think I can get this back together." And I thought, well, okay. And sure enough, they did. They spent all night long for a couple nights hosing off the entire holes and putting sand back in the bunkers and getting the course clean. And sure enough, by the time we got to Friday's first round, well, that Champions Tour is a three round tournament. We played it, and nobody knew the difference. So that was, yeah, and there have been a lot of other weather challenging things well, most recently, I guess I could go back to Wyndham Championship this year in Greensboro a couple months ago. We had whatever storm that was. I think it was 7 inches of rain that came all day Thursday was the first round. We didn't hit a golf shot until 10 o'clock Friday morning. Chad Cromer and his staff, that was a mess. And it rained again, I think Friday night into Saturday, and we got delayed Saturday. And it was the only time in the history of the PGA Tour that we made a cut Sunday and had a winner declared on Sunday, which was that was I've asked our media officials to confirm that, and they cannot find history of it ever happening before. And so that was uh, that was an exhausting week for everybody, Chad and his staff especially. But yeah, that was quite a Herculean task they pulled off for sure. But there are a number of them. When I start talking about all these weather events, I feel my stomach ulcer start to flare up again. So I hate to talk about them really.
I was going to say the Wyndham, we won't go into, much into this, but I think that was probably the only time you've had one player just finish on a Monday morning, right? You only had to,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we don't have to go into that. I know there was a lot of chatter about that online, so
yeah,
I'll change topics. But
yeah.
I know you talked about some of the construction projects that you've been involved with, and obviously most recently Eastlake, and you spent a lot of time, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of visiting during construction. What kind of things are you looking at when one of your host sites is taking on a big construction project? What are you looking at from the tourist perspective, from your own perspective when you're making those visits?
Brian, we're going to work obviously closely with the club. I'm going to work very closely with our design team. Steve Winslow, who heads that up, is going to be in direct contact with the architect, in this case Andrew Green at Eastlake, and I'll kind of use Eastlake as an example because you brought it up, and it is a very recent project, and it was probably the most aggressive project that we attempted to pull off within that time frame. First of all, there were a lot of people when this was announced who said we need to move the tournament for a year. Let's give the club a chance to get this right. Let's don't. Some people internally with our company said we don't think it can be done. And of course, Charles Aubrey and Davis Watts and that staff very, very well. Um, I knew through working with them over the last decade that first of all, there's no way they were going to let the tournament be moved. Right? They would not accept, as Gene Krantz, director of flight operations for NASA, saying failure is not an option, and so they were not going to even entertain uh, using agronomics as a reason to move the tournament for a year. Uh, Andrew Green obviously did not want to move the tournament. He worked within a very tight window himself, making sure everything was shaped and prepared on the time scale that we set forward. It's one of the things that I was very involved in early on is just the timing, the drop dead dates of everything, when the greens had to be built, when the systems had to be in place, when the grass had to go on the ground, when it could begin to go on the ground, but more importantly, when was the absolute last day it could go on the ground and still be. So we were kind of working backwards from that date. And when a project of that magnitude Not one square inch of the property was left untouched. Um, and then you throw in all the, as we talked about, the pond dredging and all the trees and everything else that had to go into that. Um, there were there were some anxious moments along the way to get to where they got. But my involvement there was just making sure that Charles and Davis, first of all, knew they had the support of the tour, but wanted to make sure that also we're staying on task. And if I needed to help in any way, facilitate maybe some expediting of certain things along the way for them to make sure that they could get everything in place, then that was what I was there to do. And then, of course, to keep everybody on our side informed as to what was going on and what to expect, because it was um, it's the Super Bowl of our season, and so we didn't want to go into that event with, gosh, if we just had 2 more months, right? If we only had this, and there was no, it was told early on by by the head of all competitions committee that, Blaine, your sole reason for existence over the next 12 months is to make sure this thing is ready. And so that's kind of how I took it. And I think I spent close to 40 days between the 24 event or 23 event, the 24 event, uh, with those guys. But I can tell you it was all time well spent. Any time spending with Charles and Davis and that staff is always uh, it's always good. It's always entertaining, and it's always productive. So it was a really neat project to be associated with, and one that I don't hope I don't have to do again for a long time.
It's always fun until D. Wayne Grimes shows up, then you never
That's
know.
right. That's right. Yeah, no, all hell breaks loose then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the course looked great on TV. I'm sure I didn't get a chance to go down there this year, but I'd love to get there again and see that whole project. One of the things you get to see a lot of right now is the innovation, and you've done over 30 years in the GCS AA, so you've seen a lot of different things come and go and grow throughout the years. So, is there anything right now that's kind of coming up and that you've seen that's sort of new that's exciting you for the industry?
Gosh, I think you could look at probably every single component of the industry and see where there are advances being made, whether it's in irrigation technology or control product technology or turf grass breeding or all the data collection sensors and those type things. Now that we've kind of there's been more of an effort in the last decade or a little more than a decade now to get uh, more genetic or do more engineering of plant material as opposed to just looking at natural selections. That was kind of how all these grasses came along early on, is they would go out in the field and find one that just was a mutation, if you will, or I hate to say mutation because mutation happens at the amino acid level, but the effect of the product of a mutation, look at a different plant, grab that plant, propagate it. Hey, this plant looks better than the parent plant. Let's grow this out. Well, those plants, natural selections are going to naturally select again, and so that's you don't get the stability, generally speaking, of natural selections. And if you look at the Bermuda grass market in particular, and go back and look in for the last 50 some odd years, every Bermuda grass breeder is trying to chase Tifway 419. And it's because it was such a proven plant and still is if you can find pure stock. And if you look at all the different Bermuda grasses that have made their way to the markets over the last 4 decades, the landscape is littered with Bermuda grass varieties that are no longer on the market, right? They've been taken off because of stability reasons, because of product or reasons that maybe you couldn't see when you looked at a 1 acre plot, but when they got put into thousands of acres, all of a sudden you really recognize a lot of their shortcomings. So um, I think when you look at what's going on in that line of work with some of the breeders currently working on some of these Bermuda grasses and zoysia grasses, I think a lot of work has been done on zoysia grasses. I still think we might be a generation or so away from getting what I would call a tournament greens grass, but certainly the improvements in that grass over the last 10, 15 years have been huge. So that's exciting. I think when you look at the plant protectant side of things, um, rightfully so, there are a lot more restrictions on what these manufacturers can produce with respect to environmental safety, and so long gone are the days of old PMAS and mercury-based stuff and lead-based, and thank God, right? I mean, those products kill a lot of people, and left a lot of people with lifelong illnesses. So, um, but to see some of the products that are making their way to the market, there's some new chemistries that are coming out that don't kind of fall within uh, the confines of some of the existing frac groups, if you will. So that's exciting to see where all those fit into programs. Um, it's obviously just the handheld technology, the irrigation technology. For years, back when I grew grass, the pump stations or the software itself was capable so much more of what the actual system in the field could do. Um, you had a Cadillac of an irrigation system software, but in the field, the system was only able to maybe be a Volkswagen. So there's been a lot of work to that end by manufacturers. I still think the technology at the handheld or in the palm is highly more capable than what the actual product in the field is or the system in the field is able to produce. But it's very interesting to see where that's gone. And back when I was growing grass, nobody knew what part circle heads were, or we knew around greens, but around fairways, who in the world could invest ever put a system in where you water rough different from fairways? And now that's common practice. Every system we do nowadays on the tour, it seems, is we have inners and outers on all the closely mown areas. So it's good. It's exciting to see. There's a new kind of crop of scientists. At least I'm a pathology nerd. That's where I spend most of my time in the microscopic world of things that kill stuff. But it's to see some of these new young professors coming out and what they were able to bring to the table. It's kind of interesting if you go back and look at this science as a whole, all the great discoveries that we've had in science, throughout history, really, they're all by and large made by scientists under the age of 40. And you think about that and you're like, well, why is that? Well, because they don't know any better. As we get older, we like to say, you can't, that don't work. You can't do that. And so we won't even try it. Right. But they don't know any better. It's, so they'll go and we might look at them and say, oh, they're just pounding a square peg in a round hole again, but maybe they reverse the steps and do things and a different outcome. You think, oh my gosh, how about that? Well, that product was sitting here all along. We never knew it could do that. So it's good to see some bright minds are continuing to come out in the field. So it's exciting. I mean, it's as exciting now as it ever has been, really.
So without you getting too political, and if you want to pass, you can take a pass. But I'd just love to get your perspective on the state of the professional game right now.
Well, look, it's the elephant in the room, right? I mean, we all would have loved for, um, at least me personally. I'm sure a lot of people that will watch this, that we weren't living in this kind of fractured time right now. Um, it's I go back to uh, the game of golf. It's an individual sport. And yes, we do play team stuff from time to time, but at the end of the day, it's an individual sport. And it is a meritocracy. And I think by and large, professional golfers agree to that. It's for what the PGA Tour does, it's trying to create an entertainment value to a sport that, let's face it, it can be for just the general common or common casual viewer. It can be a little boring, right? Let's face it. I mean, all sports can be boring if you don't if you're not watching for the right reasons. But I think that in order to create the level of excitement and in order to keep fans vested in the game, they want to see great golfers playing together. And so, how does that come about? I don't know. I mean, it's when we talk about those who left the game or left the PGA Tour, um, no gun was held to their head. Nobody told them you had to go or else. So, for people to say, well, we need to get the game back together. Well, the PGA Tour never wanted the game to be fractured to begin with, and so, um, what is a product like in the future? We really can't focus on that with what I do and what our company does. We keep moving forward. We keep developing the talent that decides to play golf on the PGA Tour competitively, and we feel like we have a great stable of athletes who are on all of our tours really, and up and coming stars who are going to be the next, the next generation that everybody wants to watch, hopefully on television. So, um, people say there's room in the world for both entities to exist, and so far there has been. And at the same time, I think that the market has kind of spoken on the team competition stuff. I mean, it's been around now for what, 3 years or so, 4 years or so, and if it was going to be a success from a marketing standpoint, television standpoint, it would have already been so, right? So I think it just goes back to golf as an individual sport, and that's how it needs to be played, and so yeah, it's believe me, it occupies. I'm not at Ponte Vedra, and I don't have any direct communication with anybody in our company about any of this stuff. I'm not. They don't ask me to sit down at the table and try to figure it out, and that's a good thing because I don't know if I can figure it out.
You
So
could use that accounting degree and all that
yeah,
science.
no, yeah,
Good use of no, I
there
don't
are
know.
people a lot smarter than me who are down there who are down there working on this stuff. But I just think we have to do. When you was an old saying in business school, when times are tough, you boil it down to what you do best, and you do that. And what we are best at is putting on professional golf tournaments and making them entertaining, and servicing the community at the same time. And so that's where we keep our focus. And if we do that, professional golf has survived, or golf in general has survived a couple of world wars, a Great Depression, and a couple of great recessions. So it's going to continue to survive, and I'm confident in that.
Good answer. Yeah. I mean, the popularity of the game right now, I think it's heading in the right direction. There's a lot of great young talent coming out. I think some of the changes in recent years have done a great job of creating more and more interest and between elevated events and then the other events to give guys an opportunity to move up. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and these kids coming out of college now, they can play. I mean, there's not this
Yeah.
this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 year development thing. They come out and they're not afraid. They can they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And we just want to see the game grow. It seems like it is. And the more the game can grow, the more our industry can grow and we can thrive. And Brian talks about all the different golf courses that are being built right now. So, any advice for some of the younger people that are getting into our industry or are kind of looking at the industry? Do you recommend they go to school or they just work and kind of try and find a job that way?
Great question. I spend some of the, well, say downtime, down season, but around this time of year through February, I'll go talk to a few different turf schools throughout the region, and I found myself from probably the late '90s, early 2000s until really COVID, um, forcing myself to tell these kids that it's a great place to be, get in the business, when really it wasn't. I mean, during that time, wages were stagnant. I had an assistant superintendent back when I was growing grass in the '90s that he was getting paid what assistants were getting paid in 2015, 16. So and that part of the industry had not really progressed, and so you weren't getting a lot of bright. There's some bright minds coming in, but not the numbers that we need. And of course, in economics as well as in nature, things always work towards equilibrium. And so you saw during that time period, you saw the enrollees in turf school drop. You saw some turf programs completely close altogether. Um, and the ones that remained have been the beneficiaries of this flip, if you will. And so now all of a sudden, compensation has in a lot of ways caught up, um, which it needed to badly. And so now I can go sit with these kids and say, look, it is now um, a good industry to get in. And so the question becomes, well, what do I major in? I just had lunch with a young man about a month or so ago, and he was asking that question. He says, I want to do this, but what should I do? And what's the path I should take? Um, if I could unless you want to get in on, the research side or the teaching side or the support side, um, I think having a two-year turf degree with a business degree or if you can stack that with an MBA, is really going to be a lot sexier in some circles than maybe having a 4-year degree in agronomy. I can tell you that what got me at the table with a lot of clubs and doing consulting work is my business background and the fact that I'd spent 5 years working in golf course transactions and had a real estate broker's license and did a CCIM designation, did a lot of that stuff. And so it's if you have the ability to do both, fantastic. If you want to get in on the hardcore agronomy side and do what we do for a living, or go into the research component of it, then certainly you need that 4-year degree. But I'll tell people, look, do go down the path that you enjoy the most. Right? I mean, the best advice my father ever gave me, and he's given me plenty of it, and a couple times I actually listened to him, is if you find something you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And so if you love the outdoors, love being on golf courses, love the thought of working on a golf course, the industry is, I think, at a place where you can have a really nice career and have a comfortable life and be and be happy doing it. So yeah, that's the advice I give. Now, obviously, every young person is different, and you cater to their to each individual, but by and large, that's kind of the way I would direct them.
Really good advice.
Yeah,
Really good.
100%.
So we could sit here and talk to you all day, Bland, but want to make sure we're not taking up all your time today.
You're not taking up my time because I'm in the process right now trying to buy my wife a new car. So anything in the
Oh,
next,
let's keep going then.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can
How long
we
do you
can
need
talk
us to go?
we can talk till Valentine's Day if you want.
Nice.
That's fun. Dude, Adam and I have been talking about it recently too. I've been in the market for a new car too. It's just like with the interest rates and whatever these, it's like I can't justify that right now. It's
Yes,
insane.
yeah, and you can't. You used to could whip them. You can't whip them anymore. They just
Yeah,
what it is. And you
yeah.
don't like it. I got somebody who wants to take it tomorrow. Well, okay.
Wow, brutal, brutal. Well, no, this has been great. I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen, and I think I'm gonna have to make a T-shirt for you that says Mr. Analogy or something because they've just
Yeah.
been absolutely
Well, I,
fantastic.
I'm sure I probably stole those from people over the years. I just don't know. I can't remember. My mind doesn't work as well as it used to. I can't remember who to give credit to, so I apologize to whoever I took them from. So,
No, no, we're giving you full credit for them,
all
so
right,
Hmm.
that's all good. That's all good.
all right. Well, guys, I enjoyed this. Was fantastic, and Brian, I hope I'll see you in the road before Atlanta next year. And Adam, I certainly hope you can find time to get down there if it works out.
100%. Yeah. No, we're gonna do more traveling next year, and we might even see you in San Diego this year, maybe.
Unfortunately, I won't make it out for that this year. So I'll although I love San Diego, that's a great place, but I've got something else going on that week. I won't be able to make it out to.
That's okay. You're a busy guy. Sounds like you travel
Yeah,
quite a bit, so you gotta
That's
gotta
it.
pick your spots, right?
that's
So
exactly right.
a,
Exactly
a
right.
guy with two suitcases, he's got a jump bag ready at all
Yeah.
times. I love
Yeah, I don't have yeah I sold my West Coast suitcase several years ago. I don't have it anymore. I don't. Yes.
it. Well, good luck with the car shop and tell your wife that you were not a cure for insomnia. You did great. Just
Okay.
Yeah.
love
Well,
to have you back on sometime.
I appreciate that. And if you can find a car for your wife, you can get a 2-for-1. Let me know. All right.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Thanks a
All
lot
right.
for this blend.
You guys take care. Thank
All
you.
right,
All
you
right.
too.
You too.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Wow.
How
He,
about
he
that?
almost didn't even need us for that episode. He could have
He
just
was
done that
he's
himself.
he's freaking awesome. Just prompt him and let him roll. That was outstanding. We're gonna have to bring him back on for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many different things that we could ask him about. And I
I
was
was gonna
even going to
say,
put a
yeah.
bit of a question box out for him, and I figured there would just be way too many because he is a big
Yeah.
name. A lot of people have worked around him and worked with him or talked to him. So yeah, but maybe we'll do that next time and get some questions from the
Yeah.
audience.
I was gonna say you probably only made it halfway through your sheet. I kept bombing him with questions too.
Oh no, I was all good. I hit all the big ones
Okay.
I wanted to hit. I had a bunch of other fun ones, but he didn't really
Yeah.
seem like he was going to be much of a story guy, so kind of had to skip
Yeah,
those ones.
he's got a lot of them, I'm sure. But yeah, no, I mean just yeah, that was a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah, learned a lot about the tournaments too, because it really like there
Yeah.
is just so much that has to happen at the right
Yeah.
time, and the weather, like fuck, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
No.
this he's got a lot of experience, so been through a lot of cool different things.
Yeah. And I'm glad he talked about the green speeds and, at the end of the day, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I freaking can't stand when they say, oh, the greens, they're going to speed up. No, they never speed up during the end of the day. Grass grows. Like, that's not what
Same green.
happens. Yeah, it's not how it works.
Or not enough for those guys for it to make a huge difference for those guys. Like,
No,
man, they're
no,
pros.
no. Well, like you said, yeah, I mean, they're not going to go from 13 and a half, 14 in the morning to 16 at the end of the day. Like, give
No.
me a break. No, I mean, that's every time I've ever stimped, you're losing anywhere from 6 inches to a foot. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty common. So I think, what do you say, 6%? You're going to lose 6% during the
If
day?
that, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's right on target. So it's crazy. That was good. That was a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to bring him back for sure.
Yeah,
Are
absolutely.
him and Bastos, are they buddies?
Yeah, I mean they talk. I mean, I think all those guys talk on a pretty frequent basis.
Yeah.
I would imagine, but then again, I mean, they're all at different places,
Always moving
around the
around.
country, around the
Right.
world. So may not be that easy for them to communicate on a regular basis. They all kind of have their own way to do things. I can't remember how many agronomists there are now, but they all kind of do things a little differently, which is great. And like you said, they find those fits for them where the personalities mesh well between superintendent and agronomist, and if they need to make a change, they make a change or whatever it may be. So, no, I think they have a great team. Everyone that I've met that's with the PGA Tour on their agronomy side have all been like Blaine and Thomas, right? Just all great people and willing to come on here and share some insights and pull the curtain back on what it's like at a PGA Tour event. So it's really neat.
Yeah. Very cool. I actually messaged Thomas earlier. I probably should have messaged him a couple days ago, just saying, "Hey, we're interviewing Bland. You got any stories?" So I haven't heard back from him, but if he does get back to us with something good, then we'll save it for next time.
Yeah, he's out drinking some Sauvignon Blanc and eating some ice cream right now. So
Yeah.
couldn't get back to you. These guys are
Oh
great.
man.
Love those guys. Love those guys.
You got anything else going on? We got Halloween at the preschool here coming up, so they're gonna be
Yeah, you
getting
got to
like
go to school.
well, they're doing a trunk or treat, so all the kids come out to the parking lot and they go from trunk to trunk to trunk to trunk. So
Yeah, awesome.
I'm the only guy with a truck. So I figured I got to do something, right? Open the bed up, have some fun.
Heck yeah.
So
Are you
I
gonna
don't
dress
know.
up as a goalie? You gonna put your pads on and
That'd be funny. The kids are a little young, but
yeah,
I'm
okay.
trying to think of something else. And I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering if we were gonna like have an episode or something during the show. It's like all of a sudden the wife comes downstairs like, we gotta go.
Yeah, there was a possibility. I
I
put my
was
phone on do
waiting.
not disturb, and I was like, if she needs me, she's gonna have to come down here.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was gonna tell Bland, right when he came on, just so you know, there's
By the
an
way,
outside chance.
yeah,
It may just be you and I when we finish this thing. So
yeah, just playing the waiting game. But
that's
it
it.
can
That's
happen
it.
quickly, right? They said like within 48 hours, it can happen pretty quickly. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's exciting.
mhm.
Oh man.
I
Yeah,
heard
man.
that some people were trick or treating over the weekend. I think that's a big thing in the South, eh? They just go the first weekend or the weekend before.
Yeah, I don't know. Our area does it. I don't know. They kind of mix it up. I don't think they like to do it on weekends because they think it's too hectic and too chaotic and
Hmm.
potentially putting kids in dangerous situations with people on the roads and all the other activities going on. So we're usually during the week, either Wednesday, Thursday, or I guess Monday through Thursday. And it's not always on Halloween night that we do it. It's a little, yeah,
Okay,
I
so
don't know. I
that
don't
is the thing.
yeah,
Because
it
up
is.
here
Yeah,
it's
I don't know.
always the 31st. Like they've talked about
Yeah,
changing it, but they've never ever changed it. And I don't know, it's kind of does
yeah,
make sense. Like why not
yeah,
have the holiday on the weekend or maybe on a day where it's not as busy? I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I've yet to figure out what rhyme or reason there is behind it, but I just kind of ask my wife is, oh, they're trick or
Yeah.
treating tonight?
What
I
day are
didn't
they
see
going
them.
out?
Yeah, yeah. Will I be home? Great.
Great job today, sir. That was an awesome one.
Yep,
I think
you
people are gonna
too.
like that.
No, I agree. I think that should be up there for sure on the
Mhm.
ratings. So good stuff. All right, man.
All right.
Well, good luck. Keep me posted on the baby updates, and
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
chat soon.
Okay. Have a good one.
All right, man. You too. See ya.
Big shout outs, as always, to Apex 10 and Toro, our awesome sponsors. See you guys next week. Hope you have a good one. Hope you enjoyed this one. I got more just like it. Keep those reels sharp. We'll see you soon.